up guys, how are we doing? You know, reed spaces are very important, right? I mean, especially in drum and bass music in general. This time we're gonna create a reed space from scratch using only FL Studio stock plugins. Let's get to it. So the first thing we want to do is open up Sytrus, right? And this is how it sounds by default. We don't want to make this pluck, right? Because this is a reed space. So we want to go over to the filter 1 section. We'll choose the vanilla band stop filter and we'll turn up the resonance to maybe like 60%, something like that. This filter basically creates a very steep notch in the frequency spectrum. You can see right here in the EQ. If I move the cutoff, I'm going to leave the cutoff at 50%. And by default, the effects are also on. We're also going to turn it off because we don't want to add these effects right now. At least in sound design, the rules are, to be broken. But in this case, I'm going to opt for not using the reverb right now because we're going to add distortion. So we're going to turn off the effects right here. And the effects go away. And in order to avoid node overlap, we want to go over here to the polyphony section. We want to turn on mono. We're going to set this to maximum 1 voice. And if you want, bring up the slide. Usually reed spaces have this very typical slide characteristic. So the first thing you see when you open up Sytrus is this operator 2. However, we'll start with the first operator. We basically want to leave the settings as they are. This by default is already a saw wave. And for the second operator, I think that 2 saw waves at the same time in Sytrus, they sound a little too harsh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce this to 35% so that we get something like in between a triangle wave and a saw wave so that it's a little bit softer. Now we want to click on the main section, and this is where we'll start achieving the typical amplitude oscillation of a reed space. In this unison order section, we only want to select 2 unison voices. I found that this is where you get the most out of the oscillation with only 2 voices. And we also want to bring up the unison pitch to around 80, something like that. This is honestly up to you, this unison pitch. Just beware that the more you go up, the more detuned the sound gets, but the more amplitude oscillation you get. Or the faster the oscillation gets. I find 80% to be a good middle term. Just a quick word, if you want to join my Discord server, I usually give weekly free stuff to whoever is in my Discord server, so link in the description. We also want to turn off the random just so that the sound stays a little consistent, It's starting to sound like a reed space. So this is it for the Sytrus patch, and we want to pull up a fruity phaser. Where is it? There you go. By default, it sounds too harsh, right? We'll bring the sweep frequency setting here all the way up so that we really emphasize this phasey effect. And now we want to kind of do some parallel phasing between this very strong effect and less wet amount. Let's say like something like this. Now, the next thing is what's going to cause the most drastic change in the sound. We're going to select the Fruity Wave Shaper. I searched the presets that were available by default in the Fruity Wave Shaper preset section, and I didn't really like any of it for this sound. So I kind of decided to create my own wave shape. And I'm not really going to replicate this because I don't think I can. It took me quite a long time to do it. And since I'm using Ableton, I basically decided to draw the noise injection shaper type from Roar's device. I'm not sure if there is a better way to replicate this shaper type in Wave Shaper. Let me know, please, if there is. But I basically tried to draw something similar to it. It's not close, but it's close enough. I'm going to stop talking and show you what I mean. This is what I call the noise injection attempt. If you want this distortion type in the Wave Shaper, I'm going to leave this preset file in the description together with the overall patcher preset that you saw in the beginning of the video for you guys to download in case you don't want to replicate all of this and just want to grab the sound and the preset and just drop it into your FL Studio project. Please be careful because it's going to sound a little louder. It was my purpose for this to sound more or less like this. Now we're going to start EQing the sound, and for this we're going to bring up a parametric EQ. Not the 2, the first one, at around 500 Hertz. We're going to bring this down to quite a lot, maybe -6 dB. And this band as well, let's bring it down to like -5, something like this. Let's do some more surgical EQing to around 245 Hertz, right? And bring the Q factor to like 15%, something like that. And let's bring it down to, let's say, to maybe -7, something like that. And it's sounding a little too harsh. Maybe bring up the highs a little bit as well. Now we want to bring up a multi-band compressor. Now the default settings of this compressor are too harsh. And let's first adjust these frequency knobs. Let's bring it down to maybe like 120 Hertz to 22, something like that. And let's bring it down to 2500 Hertz, something like this. And let's start with the lows. We'll set the threshold to -30, something like that too. The ratio can go down to 1.1. We want very light compression in this case. The attack can go up as well so that it sounds not too punchy. Let's bring it up to maybe like 50 milliseconds, something like this. And release to like 300 milliseconds. Next up, the mids. So let's bring it down also to -30 dB. Ratio to -1.1. Attack 10 milliseconds, release 200 some maybe. And for the high band, also -30, ratio -1.1. It's basically not compressing anything in the mid band. It's compressing a little bit in the highs. And it's compressing also like to around -3 dB in the lows, just to control the sound a little bit. We also want to turn up the gain to, let's say, like 7 dB to make up for what we lost, and turn up the limiter. Next up, we're going to add a fruity filter. This is just to create this like low pass effect that you might want to use sometimes. Bring down the resonance. The high frequencies are a little too loud, so let's bring it down. Let's put this at around 1000, something like that. And we're done. Now, like I said, if you want the patcher generator and the wave shaper preset, I left a link in the description with a couple macro controls, so you can just grab it and use it as you like. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.